So for what I discovered. First, for my experiment, when I applied Dr. Indujo's rubric to my old college paper, I found that having a rubric to consult certainly streamlined the grading process, and I was forced to focus on assessing the content as expressed in the rubric. One aspect that I did find a little bit constrictive was that I didn't feel comfortable offering extra subjective analysis because I didn't want to defy the rubric that was promised to students at the outset of the class. So, more or less, you're pretty bound to your rubric if you're going to provide it to your students before the final paper is due. Another thing I discovered in my research of various rubrics employed by literature teachers across the country, I found that using a strict point-by-point scale, as Robert Mann refers to it, is kind of like grading with mirrors. This particular style of scale conveys the image of pure objectivity when you're dealing with a craft that is innately subjective, intuitive, and judgmental. So doing it, quote unquote, by the numbers also tends to place the focus on those aspects of the process, such as paper format, mechanics, organization, that are to some extent governable by hard and fast rules. My question when reading Mann's reflections on this point-by-point system was, if this is how many teachers are qualifying paper grades, what happens to the spirit of the student's writing? And that kind of led me to my last discovery I'm going to share with you. And it answers one of my questions that I had at the outset of this research, which was, how is it possible to subjectively grade a literary interpretation? And I really like the way Robert Mann answers this question in his article. He says, quote, "One of the major reasons most writing and literature teachers rely on letters rather than numbers is that the system is subjective." So I think that creating a scale, but a sliding scale where letter grades are more dependent on the point-by-point system that you've given your students, I think it preserves and kind of gives more room for teachers and more flexibility for teachers to judge the product alongside legitimate point-by-point scoring.